The heavy rosewood auction gavel slices through the air. Crack. The sound echoes across the silent marble floor of Sterling and Company auctioneers. It isn't the dull, dusty thud of breaking clay. It is a sharp, high-pitched clink, the sound of metal striking something far harder than it has any right to be. Victoria Sterling, the gallery's elite director, stands over the wreckage. She wears a $4,000 silk dress, her chest heaving with arrogant satisfaction. At her feet lies a shattered lump of brown clay. She had just destroyed the only possession of a quiet, dirty art handler named Leo. "Cheap garbage," Victoria sneers, kicking a shard aside with the sharp heel of her designer shoe. "Know your place in my gallery." Leo drops to his knees. His blue nitrile work gloves press against the cold marble floor. He doesn't look at Victoria. He stares at the shattered pieces of his grandfather's dying gift. But as the dust settles under the brilliant halogen spotlights, something catches the light. It isn't brown, it isn't gray. It is a glowing, translucent imperial green. Victoria laughs, a harsh, grating sound. "What is that? Fluorescent resin. Did you really think you could bring cheap tourist trash into my auction house?" She raises the gavel to smash the glowing green core. "Stop!" The voice cuts through the room like a whip. It isn't Leo. It isn't a security guard. It is Dr. Alistair, the senior gemologist from the British Museum. He pushes through the crowd of billionaires and elite collectors. His face is pale. His hands are trembling. He drops to his knees right beside Leo, ignoring the dust ruining his tailored suit. He reaches out, his fingers hovering inches from the glowing green stone. "Do you have any idea," Dr. Alistair whispers, looking up at Victoria with sheer horror, "what you almost did?" But before we can understand why the world's leading appraiser is kneeling before a pile of broken clay, and why Victoria Sterling is exactly 7 minutes away from losing everything she has ever worked for, we need to go back, way back, to 72 hours earlier. The thermostat on the wall of Vault C reads exactly 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The humidity is locked at a perfect 50%. In the world of high-end art, the environment is controlled down to the decimal. Humans adapt to the art. The art never adapts to the humans. Leo knows this better than anyone. He is an art handler for Sterling and Company. He doesn't evaluate the art. He doesn't sell it. He just carries it. He is 28 years old, his uniform slightly faded but rigorously clean. He moves quietly. He speaks only when spoken to. Right now, he is lifting a heavy wooden museum crate packed with thick layers of white ethafoam. His hands are covered in blue nitrile gloves to ensure the natural oils from his skin never touch the priceless canvases inside. He sets the crate down gently. No bumps, no sudden drops. "Hey, Leo." A young assistant, barely out of college, walks past with a clipboard. "Victoria wants the Renaissance wing cleared by 3. The VIPs arrive tomorrow for the preview." Leo nods. "Got it." He wipes a bead of sweat from his forehead with the back of his wrist. He can't afford to slow down. He can't afford to complain. His phone buzzes in his pocket. He doesn't need to look at it to know who it is. It's the billing department at St. Jude's Medical Center. Again. His younger sister is in her 3rd round of treatments, and the grace period on her medical debt expires in exactly 4 days. $50,000. That is the number hanging over Leo's head. To the people walking through this gallery tomorrow, 50,000 is a rounding error. To Leo, it is a mountain he cannot climb. He finishes unpacking the final crate. As he moves toward the staff locker room, he stops. Tucked carefully in the corner of his open locker is a battered, taped-up cardboard box. It looks absurd inside the sterile, pristine walls of the auction house. Leo reaches out. He pulls off his blue nitrile glove, wanting to feel the box with his bare hand. Inside the box is a heavy, misshapen lump of blackish-brown clay. It looks like a crude attempt at a Buddha statue, made by a child who didn't know how to sculpt. It is ugly. It is heavy. It smells faintly of old soil. Leo traces the rough edges of the clay. He had brought it with him today because the lock on his cheap apartment door had been broken the night before. He couldn't risk leaving it behind. It was the only thing his grandfather had left him. What in the world is that smell? Leo freezes. The voice is sharp, nasal, and dripping with absolute authority. Victoria Sterling steps into the employee hallway. She is the director of the gallery. She is 34, born into wealth, educated in Paris, and entirely convinced that she is the only person in the building with actual taste. She wears a tailored white pantsuit that costs more than Leo makes in 6 months. Her nose wrinkles as she stares at Leo's open locker. "I asked a question, Leo," Victoria snaps, crossing her arms. "Why does my hallway smell like a damp basement?" Leo steps in front of the locker, trying to block her view. "I'm sorry, Miss Sterling. It's just a personal item. I'll take it home right after my shift." Victoria's eyes narrow. She steps closer, waving her hand in front of her face, as if the air around him is toxic. She leans past him and looks into the locker. She sees the cardboard box. She sees the lump of clay. "Are you running a flea market out of my gallery?" she asks, her voice rising so the other staff members in the hall turn to look. "No, ma'am. It's a family heirloom. My apartment was broken into, so I—" "An heirloom." Victoria laughs. "It isn't a warm sound. It is designed to cut. That is a lump of mud. You brought a lump of mud into a climate-controlled facility housing Monets and Rembrandts?" "It's sealed in the box," Leo says quietly. He keeps his voice steady, refusing to give her a reason to write him up. "I don't care if it's sealed in a vault," Victoria says. She reaches into her designer handbag and pulls out a small gold-capped bottle of perfume. Without breaking eye contact with Leo, she sprays the air around the locker. The heavy, suffocating scent of expensive roses fills the hallway. Leo doesn't flinch. He just stands there, taking the humiliation. He needs this job. His sister needs this job. "Listen to me very carefully," Victoria says, lowering her voice to a vicious whisper. "Tomorrow is the biggest auction this house has seen in a decade. We have buyers flying in from Dubai, Tokyo, and London. If I see that filthy box of yours anywhere near the main floor, I won't just fire you. I will make sure no gallery in this city ever hires you to carry so much as a blank canvas. Do you understand?" Leo looks at her. His jaw tightens. "I understand, Miss Sterling." "Good." Victoria turns on her heel, her shoes clicking sharply against the tile. "Get back to work and wash your hands. You look filthy." Leo watches her walk away. The other staff members quickly avert their eyes, rushing back to their tasks. Nobody wants to be Victoria's next target. Leo turns back to his locker. He looks down at the ugly lump of clay. It feels so heavy, so useless. He remembers the day his grandfather gave it to him. He remembers the old man's desperate, shaking hands. "Protect it, Leo." His grandfather had wheezed from his hospital bed. Human greed is an ugly thing. The most valuable things must hide inside the most ordinary shells. Only open it when you have no other choice. Leo closes the locker door. He takes a deep breath. He doesn't know it yet, but the choice is going to be made for him tomorrow. And Victoria Sterling is going to be the one to make it. Leo's grandfather, Jin, didn't talk much about the past. He was a quiet man whose hands were always stained with gray dust. When Leo was a child, He thought his grandfather was just a bricklayer. It wasn't until he was a teenager that he learned the truth. Jin had been a master lapidary, an artisan who shaped precious stones for the elites in his home country. But when the war broke out, wealth became a death sentence. To escape with his life and his grandson, Jin had to leave everything behind. Everything except one object. The guards at the border checked every bag. Jin had told Leo on his deathbed, his breathing shallow. They took the gold. They took the silk. But they didn't look twice at a dirty lump of clay in a refugee's sack. They only saw what their arrogance allowed them to see. Jin had placed the heavy, misshapen clay statue into Leo's hands. I encased it myself. The clay was fired at a low temperature, just enough to harden, but not enough to crack what is inside. Keep it safe, Leo. Do not sell it for pennies. Wait for the right person to look at it. Leo had kept that promise for 10 years, but promises don't pay medical bills. The next morning, Leo arrives at the gallery 2 hours before his shift. He sits in the empty staff break room, staring at his phone. The screen glows with a final notice email from St. Jude's Medical Center. Outstanding balance, $52,400. Final payment due today at 5 p.m. Failure to pay will result in the suspension of experimental treatments. $52,000. He has exactly $800 in his checking account. He looks at the taped cardboard box sitting on the table in front of him. He has to open it. He has to break the clay. Maybe his grandfather had hidden a few gold coins inside. Maybe it was a small piece of silver jewelry. Whatever it is, he has to try and pawn it today. He reaches for a utility knife on the counter. His hand trembles. Leo, get out there! The VIPs are arriving early. A supervisor kicks the break room door open, face flushed with panic. Sterling is having a meltdown. Move! Leo drops the knife. He grabs the cardboard box, intending to put it back in his locker. But as he steps out into the hallway, a chaotic rush of caterers carrying silver platters blocks his path. Hey, watch it! A waiter snaps. In the confusion, Leo is pushed backward. He stumbles through a set of double doors to avoid knocking over a tray of champagne glasses. The doors swing shut behind him. He looks around. His stomach drops. He is standing right in the middle of the main auction hall. The hall is breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, golden glow over the plush velvet seating. The front of the room features a mahogany stage where the auctioneer will stand. Surrounding the walls are glass display cases housing centuries-old artifacts. The room is already filling up. Men in bespoke suits and women in haute couture are sipping champagne, whispering about opening bids. Leo stands frozen near a marble pillar, clutching the dirty cardboard box to his chest. He needs to find the service exit. He turns, trying to slip away unnoticed. You. The voice cuts through the ambient chatter like a blade. Victoria Sterling stands 10 feet away. She is flanked by 2 wealthy clients, pointing directly at Leo. Her face is a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. I told you, Victoria says, her voice trembling with barely controlled rage, that if I saw that filthy box on my main floor, you were finished. The chatter in the room dies down. The elite guests turn to look. They see Victoria, the glamorous director, and they see Leo, the lowly handler in a faded uniform holding a trash box. Monsieur Sterling, I was pushed through the doors. I'm leaving right now, Leo says, keeping his voice level. Victoria marches toward him. No, you're not leaving. You're fired. But before you go, you are going to show everyone exactly what kind of garbage you thought was appropriate to bring into my gallery. She snatches the cardboard box out of Leo's hands. The sudden movement tears the cheap tape. the heavy clay statue falls out. It hits the marble floor, but it doesn't shatter. It rolls, coming to a stop near the center aisle. It looks hideous against the pristine white marble, a crude, lumpy, dirt-colored rock. The guests murmur in disgust. Several people step back, as if the dirt might jump onto their clothes. "Look at this," Victoria sneers, gesturing to the clay. "This is what happens when you hire from the bottom. They have no respect for art, no understanding of value." "Please," Leo says, stepping forward. "Just let me take it." "Security," Victoria snaps. Two men in black suits step forward and grab Leo by the arms, holding him back. Victoria walks over to the auctioneer's podium. She picks up the ceremonial gavel. It is a heavy, beautiful piece, crafted from polished rosewood and solid brass. "Let this be a lesson to my staff," Victoria announces to the crowd. "We do not tolerate trash in Sterling and Company." She walks toward the clay statue, raising the heavy brass-handled gavel high above her head. "No, please," Leo shouts, struggling against the guards. "Don't break it." Victoria smiles cruelly. She brings the gavel down with all her strength. Crack. The sound rips through the silent hall. It isn't a dull thud. It is a sharp, high-pitched clink that reverberates in the air like a tuning fork. The outer layer of dried clay fractures. Large chunks fall away, crumbling into dust on the marble floor. Victoria lowers the gavel. The cruel smile vanishes from her face. The object lying on the floor is no longer brown. It is glowing, a brilliant, translucent imperial green. The halogen lights hit the exposed core, and the stone seems to drink the light in, radiating it back out with a deep, mesmerizing intensity. It is flawless. There are no cracks from the gavel strike. The rosewood gavel had simply bounced off the impossibly hard surface. The entire room goes dead silent. Victoria blinks. She shakes her head. It's a fake," she stammers, looking at the wealthy guests to gauge their reaction. "It's cheap fluorescent resin. A tourist trinket molded to look like jade. Pathetic." She raises the gavel again, aiming for the exposed green surface to prove her point. "Stop!" An older man pushes his way to the front of the crowd. He wears a tweed jacket and wire-rimmed glasses. It is Dr. Alistair, the senior gemologist and provenance researcher for the British Museum. He is a legend in the art world. He drops to his knees right beside the shattered clay, ignoring the dirt on his suit. "Dr. Alistair, please step back," Victoria says nervously. "It's just plastic." Alistair ignores her. He pulls off his right glove. He presses his bare palm against the smooth green surface. "It's freezing cold," Alistair whispers. He looks up at Victoria, his eyes wide. Resin warms to the touch instantly. Glass warms in seconds. This is drawing the heat out of my skin." Victoria's face twitches. That doesn't mean anything. It could be treated quartz or dyed nephrite. Alistair reaches into his breast pocket. He pulls out a small, metallic cylinder. This is a 365-nanometer UV flashlight. If this is resin, or if it has been injected with polymer glue, it will fluoresce a chalky white or blue. He clicks the light on. He shines the intense ultraviolet beam directly onto the stone. The room holds its breath. The stone does not glow. It remains completely dark, absorbing the UV light entirely. It is totally inert. "No polymer," Alistair says, his voice shaking. "It is type A, completely untreated." "You're making a mistake," Victoria insists, panic creeping into her voice. She grabs a steel letter opener from a nearby display table. She drops to her knees next to Alistair and aggressively drags the steel blade across the green surface. Leo gasps, trying to lunge forward, but the guards hold him tight. Victoria lifts the blade. There is a bright silver streak across the green stone. She smiles triumphantly. "Look, I scratched it. It's soft fake." Alistair shakes his head. He pulls a microfiber cloth from his pocket and gently wipes the silver streak. It wipes away completely, leaving the green surface flawless. "You didn't scratch the stone, Victoria," Alistair says coldly. "The stone scratched your knife. That silver streak is the steel from your blade left behind. This stone has a Mohs hardness of 7. Only true jadeite can do that." Alistair pulls a 10x jeweler's loop from his pocket. He presses it tightly against his eye and leans in, his nose almost touching the stone. The seconds stretch out into an agonizing silence. The billionaires in the room lean forward, mesmerized. "Incredible," Alistair whispers. "The interlocking granular structure, it's like a perfect, microscopic spiderweb. The color distribution is flawless." He looks up at Leo, who is still being held by the guards. "Son," Alistair says gently, "can you tell the guards to release him, Victoria?" Victoria swallows hard. She nods stiffly. The guards let Leo go. Leo steps forward. He kneels beside the stone. "Turn it over," Alistair asks softly. Leo nods. He places his hands on the heavy stone. He gently rolls it onto its side. The bottom is still covered in a thick layer of gray dust from the clay shell. Leo uses the hem of his uniform shirt. He carefully wipes the dust away. Underneath the dust, carved directly into the flawless green stone, is a square. Inside the square are 4 complex, intricately carved characters. "An intaglio micro-seal," Alistair breathes. He pulls his loop back out and examines the characters. When he finally lowers the magnifying glass, Dr. Alistair's hands are trembling so violently he almost drops it. He looks at Victoria, and then he looks at Leo. "This isn't just Imperial Jade," Alistair says, his voice carrying clearly across the dead silent hall. "This bears the personal reign mark of the Qianlong Emperor. It was recorded lost in 1860. The silence in the gallery is so profound you could hear a pin drop. "The Qianlong Emperor?" Victoria whispers, all the color draining from her face. She takes a stumbling step backward. "That's impossible. It's a rock. It was in a dirty cardboard box." "The most valuable things often hide in the most ordinary shells, Victoria," Alistair says quietly. He stands up and turns to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, as the senior gemologist for the British Museum, I place the preliminary auction estimate for this unblemished Imperial Jadeite sculpture at $15 million. $15 million. The crowd erupts. Billionaires are already pulling out their phones, making frantic calls to their bankers. Leo stares at the green stone. 15 million. The number doesn't even make sense to him. All he can think about is the 52,000 he needs for his sister. He traces the smooth edge of the jade where the clay had protected it for almost a century. His grandfather had kept his promise. "Wait," Victoria says loudly, her voice shrill with panic. She steps between Leo and the jade statue. This object was brought onto Sterling & Company premises. It was revealed by a Sterling & Company employee. By the laws of possession, this artifact belongs to the gallery. The crowd goes silent again. The audacity of her claim is staggering. "I was the one who broke the shell," Victoria insists, looking frantically around the room for support. "I discovered it." "You didn't discover it, Miss Sterling," a deep, calm voice says from the grand staircase. "You tried to destroy it." Everyone turns. Standing halfway down the marble staircase is Arthur Sterling, the chairman of the board, the founder of the auction house, and Victoria's uncle. He is 70 years old, dressed in a sharp charcoal suit, leaning heavily on a silver-tipped cane. He had been watching from the upper balcony the entire time. Victoria freezes. "Uncle Arthur, I was trying to maintain the standards of our gallery. This handler brought unauthorized material onto the floor." Arthur Sterling walks slowly down the rest of the stairs. The crowd parts for him instantly. He stops in front of Victoria. He doesn't look at the jade. He looks directly into her eyes. "You didn't see an unauthorized material, Victoria," Arthur says softly. "You saw an opportunity to humiliate someone who couldn't fight back. You used a ceremonial gavel, a symbol of trust and commerce in this house, to smash what you believed was a personal heirloom belonging to an employee." "It was trash," Victoria pleads, tears of desperation welling in her eyes. "I couldn't have known." "That is exactly why you are unfit to lead this house," Arthur replies coldly. "A true appraiser investigates. An arrogant fool destroys." Arthur turns to his head of security, a large man standing near the entrance. "Lock her access card. Erase her from the system, and draft an incident report immediately." "Uncle, please," Victoria begs, reaching for his arm. "Don't touch me," Arthur snaps. "You intentionally struck a $15 million artifact with a blunt instrument. While the Jadeite did not scratch, your intent was malicious destruction of historical property. Call the police." Victoria lets out a choked scream. The two guards who had restrained Leo earlier now step forward and firmly grab Victoria by the arms. She thrashes and cries as they drag her out of the main hall, her designer heels slipping on the polished marble. The elite guests watch her go, whispering in absolute shock. Arthur Sterling turns to Leo. He looks at the dirty uniform, the worn-out shoes, and then down at the magnificent green jade. He slowly lowers his head, giving Leo a deep, respectful bow. "On behalf of my family and this gallery, I offer you my deepest apologies, young man. If you will permit us, Sterling & Company would be honored to host the auction of your artifact tonight. We will waive all commission fees. Every penny will go to you." Leo looks at the chairman. He looks at the green stone. He finally smiles. "Thank you, sir, but I need a small advance. I have a phone call to make." At 4:45 p.m., exactly 15 minutes before the deadline, Leo walked into the billing department of St. Jude's Medical Center. He didn't just pay the $52,000 for his sister's treatment. He paid the medical debts of every single child in her ward. That night, the Imperial Jadeite statue sold to a private collector in Tokyo for a staggering $18.5 million. Leo didn't buy a mansion. He didn't buy sports cars. He quit his job as an art handler and opened the Jin Heritage Foundation, a workshop dedicated to teaching immigrant artisans how to safely restore, handle, and evaluate precious antiques. He still wears blue nitrile gloves when he works. He still speaks quietly. And he still keeps a piece of that broken brown clay on his desk, a reminder that the world's most valuable things rarely scream for attention. Victoria Sterling thought she was breaking a piece of trash, but in her arrogance, she only managed to break her own career, while setting free the brilliant light she was too blind to see. It is a powerful reminder that value is not dictated by the packaging. It isn't defined by the clothes we wear, the titles on our doors, or the neighborhoods we come from. The loudest people in the room are often the emptiest, while the quietest hands hold the deepest truths. Have you ever been judged by your clay shell instead of what you hold inside? Have you ever had to prove someone wrong simply by letting your true worth shine through? Tell us your story in the comments below. We read every single one, because your truth deserves to be heard. Thank you for watching.